Katz and Cosby, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And you guys, let's go to the State Department. We have Tommy Pigott, State Department spokesperson, joining us now. And Tommy, let's pick it up with what Judge Weinberg was saying, that Secretary of State Marco Rubio came out and said maybe there should be a dissolving of the International Criminal Court. Talk about that.
Well, fundamentally, this has to do with America's sovereignty. We have a court, an International Criminal Court, that purports to have authority over the United States, which it does not, which is targeting American service members. It is threatening Border Patrol agents. It's threatening ICE agents, people that are doing their job to defend our country. And we're also seeing threats against elected officials in the United States, truly outrageous things. So the Secretary having a clear message here that if the ICC continues in its effort to threaten America's sovereignty, that we will see an effort to stop that. We will see an effort to dismantle that. We will see an effort to protect America's sovereignty. And to quote the Secretary, the ICC, if it continues to threaten America's sovereignty, will see the full power, the full measure of American resolve.
You know, one of the other things that he came out with, talking about how Cuba is undermining America from within. What are you guys seeing?
Well, we have that report that was just issued from the State Department that really puts all the evidence out there. And much of it is public information. Astonishingly, many of these far-left extremist groups are proud of their relationship with the Cuban regime. So this report is taking bits and pieces here and there and fully presenting the story of the decades-long influence and espionage campaign that we have seen from the Cuban regime. And one powerful example, we see one group, the National Network on Cuba, issuing what they call a rapid response plan that includes the location of U.S. military bases and ICE facilities, calling for agitation and resistance. And that's one powerful example of this network that we're seeing, where the Cuban regime acts as the nexus and the node of a whole network of far-left extremism. And I think the broader context of this is also important with that ministerial that we held at the State Department last week on the resurgence of political terrorism. We are seeing a surge of far-left terrorism in this country and worldwide, with far-left terrorism accounting for more anti-government attacks and plots in the United States than any other ideological group. So we're seeing this surge, and at that ministerial, the Secretary citing Cuba as a main supporter, the Cuban regime as a main supporter of this type of extremism.
Yeah, that's a very big deal. New York State Senator George Borrello, your thoughts?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, the left has been talking about, you know, white supremacy and everything else. So, you know, all these things that have really been, you know, they're trying to go after, you know, the right. Now, at the same time, now they're trying to protect these, you know, these people that are really trying to undermine America in general. So you know, I'm glad there's finally going to be a little bit of admission that there's an issue here, wouldn't you say?
Well, it's long overdue to make sure that we have looking at this broad issue. I mean, as the Secretary described in the ministerial, this has been a real blind spot in terms of our counterterrorism strategy that we've seen as part of having a necessary counterterrorism strategy. We have to address this. So it's really been a blind spot from previous administrations, and we are taking action to make sure we address that blind spot. So it is definitely overdue in terms of addressing it. It's also a serious threat that we face, so we have to address it. And when it comes to this report from on the Cuban regime, it's all transparently there for the American people to see for themselves. It's well cited, it's transparent, and it lays out the full story. And this is an ongoing and pressing threat. As recently as 2023, we had a man that was charged on espionage-related concerns in regards to the Cuban regime. So this is an ongoing threat, and it's something that we take very seriously.
One more question. Is the current Cuban regime trying to make a deal with our government?
Well, the president has often said the Cuban regime should make a deal before it's too late. And we're seeing a series of actions from the United States. One of the things that we're seeing announced today, for example, was the first delivery of assistance to help the Cuban people, but not going through the Cuban regime, going directly to the Cuban people through Catholic Relief Services, making sure we can help people in need. And it's a humanitarian disaster on the island that is a result of the regime's own making, their own incompetence and purposeful mismanagement. As the Secretary says, The only thing worse than a communist is an incompetent communist, and that's exactly what we're seeing regarding the Cuban regime. So the president's been encouraging them to make a deal before it's too late.
A few weeks ago, I had the Cuban ambassador came to WABC studios and recorded a message for everybody, and I will forward you that message.
Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that, and the secretary has spoken to this, but ultimately, the president wants them to make a deal before it's too late, and we're seeing a pressing humanitarian disaster on the island because of the incompetence, purposeful incompetence, and the policies of the Cuban regime.
Understood. All that is understood. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and let's hope for peace. Let's hope you guys make a deal. I mean, it's up to you guys.
Well, and it's up to the Cuban regime as well. So we're continuing to have those policies, and
well, the president, my understanding is the president always wants peace. So let's see what happens.
That's 100%. We want peace and we want prosperity.
Yes.
Yep, let's see where it goes. Tommy,
thank you so much.
Tommy, it's great to have you again. Thank you very much.